So let me ask you this for people that, may not have been in the podcast world as long as, you or I have. Tell us about those kind of early days of getting started. Like, how hard was it? How did you actually, because dude, like for people that don't understand, it's so easy now.
Yeah.
And when we started, man, so tell us about like kind of your early setup and like what that was even getting online, man.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, shout out to the early school, the places where we can get some training. And, Podcasters Paradise, John Lee Dumas and Kate were really instrumental in pulling like a group of folks together that like were helping them get started. Obviously, John had a lot of success with Entrepreneur on Fire, but we just had to figure out the basics. And thankfully, early on, people were guiding us on at least something like the ATR 2100. Make sure you get that mic. And so people were using that in the beginning. But it was really like Skype. I had to do Skype with call recorder plugged in at the beginning. But I wanted video. So Jeremy, from day one.
How many times did that thing fail to record, by the way? Like I had the problem where you think it was recording. It would tell you it's recording. It was crashed. And you just be like, I know the last 20 minutes we talked about some great stuff. It's all gone.
Yeah. But what I realized is, hey, I'm going to get an hour with this person. And I really thought about the importance of building those relationships. And I said, if I'm just on the phone with them or they just hear my voice, because that's what we were doing back in 2014, just audio podcasts, it's not going to be the same as if I can at least see their face. And we weren't recording video at the time, but that sort of MacGyver thing that we were able to piece together, let me see the person and then it would record the audio. And that was instrumental because then, I'd end up going to podcast conferences and they'd see my face and I'd see them and I'll be like, oh, because you had an hour conversation with them. And just slowly over time, I started reaching out to some of like the OGs in podcasting, the Dave Jacksons of the world and Elsie Escobar. And just like, I wanted to get them to hear their stories, but it was just realizing early on that I wanted to build that relationship. And it's really what I realize now. Podcasting is you creating your own stage, rather than waiting to be invited in other people's stages. And it was just, I was realizing the more and more I was having these conversations, that's exactly what was happening.
And I guess for you, like, when did you know that this was going to be something for you? Like, when did you realize that this was more than just something you were kind of toying with?
I think for something, it was always this idea of, just showing up every day because, early on, like those numbers are not really that significant. And even now for this specific show, this show really is just a platform. My show, Podcast Junkies, actually, is just a opportunity for me to connect with other people I want to have relationships with or connect with. And as long as the only commonality is that they have a podcast, I can now invite them on the show. And I just realized how important it was to have a brand around a podcast. If you Google Podcast Junkies now, like the first 6 or 7, entries on the first page of Google are my show. It's either the website or Apple or Spotify. And it's just really reinforced the importance of having a place that you can build up a brand over time. It's not going to happen overnight. And I know a lot of podcasters get started and they want that instant like celebrity effect, but I think I'm reading Tom Webster's new book. I don't know if you caught that, but it's really fascinating. Podcasters build the show like, they want to create without thinking about the show your audience wants to hear. And those are two different things. And I think in the beginning, we create this show that we're like, oh, we love doing this and it's fun. But you have to really think about if you're in it for the long haul. And I'm thinking about some things after reading that book about revamping my show, but just create something that people actually want to hear and that your audience is actually like, clamoring for.
Yeah. And I think the thing that's interesting is I feel like we can get like a band's third album where we get like really experimental at times, you know what I mean? And like, I think of all the bands like I loved and they did that like second or third album. I'm like, what are you guys doing? I'm not going to buy this thing again. Although there's some that I was like, it made me like them more.